Culture is a sort of mindset. Culture is an attitude. When you excavate in archaeological excavations, you discover the science of a civilization, physical science of a, but you don't discover culture. You discover a civilization, isn't it? I told you about the Indus Saraswati Valley civilization. I told you about the Harappa and Mohenjo-daro cities and about 2,000 sites that have been discovered in excavations. They are the ruins of a civilization. But you don't find the culture. The culture is at the mental level. Culture are the mental values, the mindset, the abstract values. How does one get, how do the values develop in mind, abstract values develop in mind that regulate one's conduct? You see, I am your teacher, and you have allowed me to sit on a higher pedestal. You are sitting on the floor. So why? There's something in your mind. You have a value, you have a belief system, you have some guiding principles which are ingrained in your mind. That person who teaches you should be respected. And it is a form of your giving your teacher a respect that you allow him to sit on a higher pedestal and you yourself sit up. So this is culture. So the cultural value that is guiding you is that you think that teacher should be respected. This is a guiding principle ingrained in your mind. And its physical manifestation is here. If you look at the physical manifestation, I am sitting on a higher pedestal and you are sitting on a lower pedestal. So those mental values that guide your conduct is the culture. And its physical manifestation is civilization. You respect your teacher reflects that you are a civilized person. All right? You talk with each other in a very civilized manner. You help each other. The value guiding you is that fellow citizens should be respected. Human beings should be respected. So you understand what is the difference between civilization and the culture? All right? Is it clear? You can, on this theme, you can develop yourself. There is a value which guides your conduct, and then conduct would be of two kinds. One would be in your behavior, day-to-day behavior. In India, we don't smoke before our seniors. It will be, and the other would be in creation of material objects. Now, I give you an example. The primitive man, civilizations developed normally on the banks of the rivers, isn't it? But some civilizations developed not on the banks of the rivers. Or early civilizations developed on the banks of the rivers, but people somehow had to run away from the banks of the rivers and settle somewhere else, where the land is sandy, stony, and land is not fertile. The fruit production is not sufficient to sustain the entire population. So, they also realize that if they have to survive, they have to snatch the food from others. So the civilization, the people, or the civilization that will grow in such a situation where there is scarcity of food, they imbibe a value that you can survive only by snatching food from others. All right? But if the earliest civilization develops in a place where there is sufficient of land, fertile land, sufficient of water, sufficient food production to sustain a large number of people, to sustain everybody there, and even if outside people also come there in that land, they would also survive. Such people would be tolerant in their attitude. They would not be aggressive. They would not be warlike. All right? They will develop a philosophy that live and let live. They will not forever be creating new weapons of war to invade others or to defend themselves. Similarly, the areas which are protected by mountains or high mountains or rivers or deserts where outside people don't come, they would be relaxed about defending themselves. They would also not be aggressive people. And they would devote their energy in pursuing knowledge and other high pursuits of life. All right? So this is the basis. So geography, in effect, creates the culture. And also the historical experience. If a people are invaded all through their history, they would be very cautious of their neighbors. Why did China build the wall? You know why did China build the wall? Somebody tell me.
Protection from the
Mongols and other northern tribes.
Yeah,
They were all along being invaded. All along they were being invaded. So they decided to build a permanent defensive wall. So what would be the attitude? Should be attitude of most of the Chinese people that they would have imbibed. The mindset they would have inherited over thousands of years is be careful of your neighbors. And it's largely true also, they have been defending themselves. Now we come to Indian civilization. In Indian civilization, the earliest Indian civilization developed in the region irrigated by Indus-Saraswati River and its 5 tributaries. The Aryans used to call their land as Sapta Sindhu, they used to call it Sapta Sindhu. Sapta Sindhu means 7 rivers, land of the 7 rivers. It is one of the most fertile areas of the world. And the Sapta Sindhu area was geographically protected by Himalayan ranges on the north and the west, and also by Arabian Sea in the south. They enjoyed the Harappan people, the people from Saraswati and Sindhu area. They enjoyed almost continuous peace of almost 5,000 years, from 7,000 BC to 2000 BCE. This I told you, isn't it? I told you that the Mehergarh Mehergarh excavations shows the beginning of the Indus Valley civilization in 7000 BCE. And the Harappan civilization came to an end in which year? This everybody should know. I've been repeating in 2000 BCE, when there were tectonic changes, when the Saraswati River dried up, when the river Yamuna changed its course river settlers changed its course and people migrated. People from that area migrated all over India and probably to Iran and European countries also. So they had enjoyed. And during these 5,000 years, they wrote Vedas and discovered most of the values which constitute the Indian culture. Indians biologically are not superior people. You should note. I don't say genetically Indians are not superior people or superior to other people of the world. They are as good or as bad as people all over the world are. But it is sheer accident of geography that this had this opportunity of 5,000 years of undisturbed peace and develop human values as are imbibed in Vedas and Indian culture. Does it make sense what I'm telling you? Mm-hmm. Does it look reasonable and logical? Mm-hmm. Now, to what sort of civilization, what sort of culture they developed? That's the question that we are talking. What sort of values they evolved for survival? Because man has the challenge of the nature and history. So, depending on his experience, he acquires certain values which are known as culture. And its physical manifestation is known of those values. The physical manifestation of those values is known as civilization. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, how do you explain that Jewish people were persecuted in most of the countries of the world? But in India, they were respected, they were honored, and they were allowed to build in synagogues. They were not converted to Hinduism or any other religion. How do you explain that? Why did Indians or Hindus behave that way? It's the gift of culture. The values that Indian culture gave to the people. This also explains that Zoroastrianism is a religion. You find it only in India. Who were the Zoroastrian people? You know who were the Zoroastrian people? The Iranians. Iranians were converted to Islam by the Arabs in 7th century CE, 7th century AD. All Iranians, because Islam itself was founded in 7th century AD. You know it? No down somewhere, 16th, 7th century AD. 622 AD is the beginning of the Islamic calendar. 622 AD, 6th century CE is the beginning of the Islamic calendar. So Islam is 600 years younger than Christianity. And before the advent of the Islam, before Arabs' invasion of Iran and conversion to Islam, Iran was a country of fire worshippers. Fire worshippers. They would create a yajna sort of thing. They used to perform yajnas. And the religion was known as Zoroastrianism. The name of You have seen the car Mazda. You must have known the car Mazda. Mazda name has been derived from Ahur Mazda. The name of the Zoroastrian god was Ahur Mazda. And from Mazda means great, Mahan. And Ahur means Asur or God. Ahur Mazda means great God. I told you about Asur Mazda. I told you about Aryans. While I was talking about Aryans, I told you that the Aryans were divided in two groups. Aryans worshipped Sur and they worshipped Asur. And Asur is written in Persian as Ahur. And Aryans worship, they call their godly figures as Dev. Dev means in Iranian, in Persian language, as demon. Among Aryans, Indra is the god king, but Indra is a thief or demon according to the Persians. So what happened that the Aryan people got divided, and one group went to Iran and one came. Linguistically, they are almost the same language, ancient Iranian language and the ancient Sanskrit language, they are almost same. So those Iranian languages, they used to perform yagyas. You know yagya? We call yagya fire. And what did the ancient Iranians call their fire worship? Yagya. They called yashna. They also did the same fire thing. So it was the same culture. So I'm probably digressing. So in 7th century, Arabs invaded Iran, converted entire Iran to Islam, and some people, a few hundred families, escaped from Iran and took shelter in India. And Indians gave them shelter, and they are a thriving community still living in India. They have contributed to Indian culture, civilization. Our first atomic scientist was a Zoroastrian, and many people, they have contributed to India's cultural life and civilization life. They are Zoroastrians. So why were given Zoroastrians shelter in India? Because of its cultural values, isn't it? Tibetans migrating from Tibet and Dalai Lama made India a home. Again, something to do with the Indian culture. Probably India is the only country which swears by vegetarianism, isn't it? Why Indians are vegetarians? Why did they discover vegetarians? Even those persons who are regular meat eaters, they respect vegetarianism somewhere in their heart. So all these questions, now, you know, our modern India's history. In 1947, India became free, but it was partitioned. Partitions into Muslim Pakistan, majority of because Muslims declared that if country becomes independent, we would not like to live with Hindus. We want a separate homeland. They demanded, they created such situations where it became necessary to give them a separate homeland. So the country was partitioned. Hindu majority areas got into India, and the Muslim majority area got into the Pakistan. Now what happened after? The Hindu India chose to be a secular country, and Muslim Pakistan chose to be an Islamic country. a theocratic country ruled by the religion rulers. This is modern history. This is known. You Google and you will find Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and India will say the secular, our constitution is secular for us. And what happened? When the country was partitioned, there were 6% Muslims in India and 94% non-Muslims. What has happened in 60 years? 6% Muslims have become 15%. In Pakistan, what was the situation? When the country was partitioned, Hindu population was 24% and the 76% were Muslims. Today, the Hindu population is 1.5%. So, naturally, Hindus should have been reacting. They should say that if you don't treat, in India, they should say if you don't treat Hindus well in Pakistan, we'll retaliate, we'll take action or something, but it didn't happen. Hindus took it coolly, and they are taking coolly. So what is it? How would you call it? This culture. Men are meant that way. They have been shaped to behave in such a manner for the last 5,000 years. The figures that I am giving you are authentic. I'm giving you in writing, it means authentic. Google will tell you that India is a secular country and that's a Muslim country. Now, we have talked about what culture is. We talked about Indian culture. Now, what are the core values of the Indian culture that the Vedic Aryans developed? On page 3, I mentioned peace, harmony with nature and all living beings, humanism, inclusivism, pluralism, quest for knowledge, religious tolerance, and social ordering. So peace, you know, Indians have been, Hindus have been. All the time we are talking of peace. Peace, Om Shanti, 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 Om Shanti. There's a very good Shanti mantra, which after every religious ritual or ceremony, you have this full Om Dev Shanti Antariksha Gum Shanti Prithvi Shanti Shanti Roshadhiya Shanti Vanaspatiya Shanti Shantir Brahma Shanti Sarva Gum Shanti Sama Shanti Redhi Om Shanti Shanti. This is the peace mantra. And in English it would mean, may peace radiate there in the whole sky as well as in the vast ethereal spaces everywhere. Sitting here in one corner, we are hoping that peace will be there in the skies, in these celestial bodies and heavenly bodies. May peace reign all over this earth, in water, in all herbs, trees and creepers. May peace flow over the whole universe. May peace be in the Supreme Being Brahmans. And may there always exist in all peace and peace alone. Om, peace, peace, peace to us, all human beings. So this is why only this civilization could have given birth to Mahatma Gandhi, who would swear by non-violence. I mentioned that after India's partition in 1947 into India and Pakistan, they later invaded India in 1948, 1965, 1971. Pakistan has sponsored innumerable terrorist attacks in India. You know of only 9/11, 2001, but innumerable attacks, including on Indian Parliament. China also invaded India in 1942. Motivated by its culture of peace, Indian government did not choose to retaliate. Instead, it is still seeking peace with these countries. All sorts of peace. So this is culture. It may sometimes be counterproductive, sometimes be good. But ultimately, as humanity is progressing towards higher, is motivated by higher callings, it may survive. Harmony with nature and all living beings. You know, when I was a young child, my mother would not let me go to the garden and pick flower or a leaf at night. She would say, please sleep. It should be there in many other cultures also, such instructions. It is expected that the first morsel that you eat should be taken out for the cow, animal. And the last morsel should be left for the crows. And in Delhi, if you go, in the morning you go to walk, many people you will sow. You will see that they are moving on the road with some flour in a packet and throwing on the earth to feed the ants. And you know, very interestingly, there are two kinds of, for meat eaters. We have two kinds of meats which are sold there. I'm not written here. In the shops, the butcher will advertise, we sell the jhatka meat. And the other butcher will say, we'll sell the halal meat. The Muslims eat the halal meat. In the halal meat is, when they kill the animal, they will not kill in one stroke. They will rub his neck and keep on reciting Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and rub it and keep on reciting, so it is halal meat. In jhatka meat, jhatka means stroke. Jhatka means stroke meat. In jhatka means the animal is killed in one stroke. So Hindus will eat jhatka meat. It's written in shop, everybody knows it. It's commonplace, the bazaar language I'm telling you. Jhatka meat, where the animal is killed with one stroke. He is not made to suffer long. Although they eat the meat, they are going to meat, still they have some sort of mercy for the animal killed. Jhatka meat and the halal meat.
How do you spell jhatka?
Jhatka. Jhatka means stroke.
How do you spell it?
Jhatka or diacritical mark. Manjuji, I'm all right? You know it? Jhatka meat and halal meat?
Yeah.
It's a bazaar information that I'm giving you. So even somewhere where you are going to eat the animal, you have some soft corner for that very poor fellow. He's being killed, so let him not suffer pain. So somehow the Indian culture teaches harmony with nature and all living beings. You see, in Vedas it is described Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It's a very oft repeated quotation. It means the whole world is a family. So 5,000 years back, the Vedic seers could say the whole world is a family. So the rest of the world took 5,000 years to come to this conclusion when it set up the League of Nations and United Nations. I also told you that India's never invaded any other country to overrun it. The Indic religions also do not seek conversions. They don't seek conversions. You are all right. For me, if Jesus Christ is here, welcome. In many houses, they keep Jesus Christ. If you go to the houses, you will see that in many Hindu houses, and you know, Hindus worship many gods and goddesses. They are not satisfied with one God. There is a Ram, there is a Krishna, there is a Lakshmi, there is Saraswati. These are all goddesses. We have quite a large number of goddesses. And the most important portfolios have been given to women goddesses, not to the gods. For instance, wealth. No male god is the god of wealth. God of wealth is Lakshmi, a goddess. Lakshmi I mentioned somewhere. And the god of learning is Saraswati. And believe it, god of valor is Durga, which we celebrate here, which we venerate here. She's a woman. So you have many gods and goddesses. And if you create a temple for Rams, for one god, you will not find one god alone. You will hardly find a temple with one god. You create, if the idol of the main god may be bigger than the idols of other gods, because it's the main deity. But there would be many gods and goddesses. The idea is that all gods and goddesses are one. Ultimately, they are one. Even they are the manifestation of one God. And that God is energy, the first principle, doesn't have a face, doesn't have a form, doesn't have a smell, doesn't have a color. He is formless. Nirgun, in Hindi they call it Nirgun. Nirgun.
There is no gun, yeah.
Would you write Nirgun?
Yeah.
God is Nirgun. Nirguna. Dot below. Nirgun. Nirgun means without any quality, without any attribute.
Without any attribute.
Without any attribute.
Without any good no quality, nothing. Formless.
Quantity, without any attribute or quality. God is essentially Nirgun. And so, if God is Nirgun, and He manifests itself as Durga, Lakshmi, or in the form of Jesus, it is acceptable to Hindu mind. Because God is one. Is that clear? You know why Jesus is acceptable to? If you have, God can manifest in the form of a goddess, a woman, in the form of a monkey, in the form of an elephant, in form of a noble king, he can also appear in the form of Jesus. Because they say in Gita, Krishna says, that God says, it is on behalf of the God says, that I manifest myself in the form you want me to appear. So if you worship God in the form of a goddess, He will appear before. This is the belief. I'm trying to tell you the belief system, or I'm not teaching you religion. I'm only telling you from the culture point of view. This is the thinking behind such beliefs. All right? Clear? Anything you want to ask something? So, when I say Vasudev Kutumbakam, the Vedic prayer says, may all be happy, may all be without disease, may all see auspiciousness, may none suffer. May I see everyone with the eyes of a friend. May all men see each other with friends' eyes. So based on the devotion to a particular god, there had never been quarrel. There had been numerous sects among Hindus, numerous sects. If you give the freedom, human mind would not adhere to one dogma or one. Even here in America, you see Christianity, because the freedom is there. You have so many sects of the Christianity. You have Seventh-day Adventist. You have Mormon Church. That yes. Similarly, among the Hindus also, there were several sects. Now again, I told you, when the Hinduism also, you see, when you look at the religion, you find Hindu religion has 3 levels. One is philosophical, the other is ritual, and third is mythology. Will you note down?
Ritual, mythology.
Philosophical, number 1. Philosophical level, and this is a ritual level, and at mythological level. 3 levels, all right? So it depends on the individual. At what level you discover, you find resonance with the religion. If you are a philosopher, if you are a scholar, if you are a yogi, if you meditate, you find Nirgun God. At philosophical level, you discover the religion. But for the common man, religion is, you find, at the mythological level. The god has eight arms. Somebody has 6,000 kings, 6,000 children. All sorts of stories are there. Or mythological stories, I was telling somebody has Achilles' heel. The weak point is there, like Greek stories. But the purpose of these mythological stories is to teach the moral values to common people. None of the mythological story ever promotes hatred or negative values. So mythology has a great role in development of a culture. If you are not controlling, or if the religion is not controlling, all sorts of mythological stories will develop in various people. I think they have developed in Christianity also, in different countries, in South America and India. They develop all sorts of mythology. It's the human nature. But the idea is to convey the values, the positive values, the ethical values, common people. Mythology also serves as a language that last time I tried to tell you. Because, for instance, Ram is a very important Indian god. You all know? So, there is a Ramayana, an Indian epic. In that Indian epic, it's like Iliad and Odyssey. In Greek, you have 2 epics. In India also, we have 2 very important epics. They are Ramayana and Mahabharata. In that Ramayana, Ram's wife Sita is embodiment of virtue. Everybody knows this story. It's a mythological story. Everybody knows the story. And if I tell this girl is a Sita, so everybody knows that I'm not telling about Sita. I'm attributing all the virtues of Sita to her. So it is conveyed. It is a sort of language. So mythology is very important in a culture, among people. It has a role to play. I told you last time, in the drama's story, the Ravan is the villain. Ravan is a character who is the villain. And his villain's younger brother's name was Vibhishan. He betrayed his brother. He betrayed his villain. Now, if you want to tell somebody that he is a betrayer, you call him Vibhishan. Now, everybody knows this. You cannot rely on this man. Just by one word, he is a Vibhishan, you tell everybody that he is a betrayer. Or just in Christianity, you say he is a Judas. Everybody knows he is betraying. Because everybody knows the story, everybody knows the mythology. So mythology has a role to play. So I said philosophy, religion at philosophical level, you know the essence of the religion, the subtleties of the religion you come to know. And through mythology, you convey the values, the ethical values to common people. And ritual is also important for religion. It has a social purpose. Because if a group of people follow the same ritual, then it creates a bond between them. Isn't it? All the army people put on the same colored uniform, same shoes, same style of walking, saluting, dispersing. So it creates a bond among those people. You know, if you Muslims in West Asia, they all put on same sort of cap, same sort of kurta, some sort of pajama, and they do the namaz in the same manner. They follow the same ritual, and it creates a strong bond between the community. So ritual is important for cohesion, for social cohesion of people. If every Sunday people used to go to church. So all church-going people felt that they are same people, they have the same aspirations, same people. Creates cohesion among the people there. People belonging to this church and that church. So there would be division. I'm from this church, the other is from the other church. So philosophy, religion, and ritual. Philosophy, mythology, and religion, they're important things. So I was speaking this in the context of harmony of the nature. Next point is the culture that Indians developed in was inclusive. Because of the geography, they developed a mindset that live and let live. So there's not to fight. We are all together. So inclusive attitude developed. They need not kill the other people to survive or to eat. So inclusivism is the main thing. And again, when they had so many gods and goddesses, all are true, they are inclusive. There are two words in this context which are given, inclusive and exclusive. You might note down inclusive, it's a positive, exclusive. Inclusive religions are those which say I am right, you are also right. An exclusive religion will say, only I am right, you are not right. So these are two kinds of religions, and they are gift of the geography, or the places where they originated, and they gave the original. So inclusivism is the hallmark of the Indian culture. This different gods and goddesses are there, but Veda says truth is one, which is called by different names by learned men. You may be Ram, Krishna, Saraswati, Devi, or different gods and goddesses. You will be called by different names, but the truth is one, God is one. The Sanskrit shlok is oft quoted. Ekam sadvipra bahuda vadanti. I have not given the Sanskrit quotation, but the translation is there. Truth is one, which is called by different names by learned men. Now there is from Atharvaved, there is a quotation which emphasizes that God is one. Insists that God is one. Look, in Vedas you find so many gods and goddesses. Indra, Varun, Agni, Matishanmahu, so many. And Rigveda is full of, but the Vedas mention in further, they evolved. And they found God is one, and to emphasize this, in Atharvaved he says, God is one, only one, without a second, neither third, nor fourth, nor fifth, nor sixth, nor seventh, nor eighth, nor ninth, nor 10th. The fact is only one. Why should he repeat 10 times? Probably to emphasize that God is one. He may look in different forms, you may remember in different forms, but God is one. Nirgun God. And now again says, just as different rivers treading straight or curved paths ultimately mingle in the same sea, so all the different paths chosen by persons according to their disposition ultimately lead to thee alone. Just as different rivers lead to the same ocean, reach the same ocean, all paths lead to the same God. All right? Clear? Inclusivism. So, if you believe, if you are a Jain, I am a Hindu, doesn't matter. You may reach the God by your path. I'll reach the same God by my path. If you're Sikh, it doesn't matter. If you're a Buddhist, it doesn't matter. If you're a Christian, it doesn't matter. If you're a Muslim, it doesn't matter to me. This is what? This is the cultural belief. This is the cultural belief. This is the cultural value that Hindus adhere to. Now again, it has been put differently in Ishavasya Upanishad. When absolute is added to absolute, it remains absolute. If absolute is taken away from absolute, what remains is absolute. Purnamida, Purnamidam, Purnat, Purnamadichyate, Purnasya Purnamadai, Purnameva Vashishyate. Ye, Manjuji will tell you this Sanskrit. From absolute, it's like God. There is one God, absolute God. If you build so many gods out of that, he will remain one. And if you take away absolute from him, still he will be there. Take away the God, you say you don't believe in him, still he is there. Now, Bhagavad Gita I was taking, he says, any sincere soul of the world If he surrenders to any divine form, I reveal myself in the same form to him, because all forms of God are myself. So you worship God in the form of a ram, he will appear to you in the form of a ram. If you worship God in the form of a Buddha, he will appear in the form of Buddha. If you worship God in the form of a Jesus, he will appear to you in the form of the Jesus. This is what Gita says. So, is that clear? I hope I've been able to make myself clear. Now, pluralism. One of the values is pluralism. You see, India is a very big country. And it has a population of how many? Delhi has the population of, it's a very big country. After China, next to China, India is a big country. And the population of each state is equal to the population of each country of Europe. For instance, the state of Uttar Pradesh, from which I come, has a population of France, total population. So it's a very big country. Big country, even after the partition, after quite a chunk has gone to Pakistan, it remains a big country. And all states apparently look different. Most of the states speak different languages. Their food habits are also different. Their dresses are also different. Yet the country is one. Why? Because, and the country was for a very brief period politically united under one emperor, for brief periods. They remained for most of the time under different kings. And yet the country is one. And the country is one because the uniformity was not forced upon them. It was not forced upon them, uniformity. They did not rebel. On the contrary, diversity was celebrated. The attempt was by the seers and thinkers to unite the country internally, like a necklace where the thread is not seen, the interconnecting thread is not seen from outside, but it is inside. And it was not accidental. It was deliberate. Because if you, the other day I was looking into the Charak Samhita, there is a reference to conferences of the scholars. They came together, they helped in compiling the Charak Samhita. So there were assemblies of learned people who consciously tried to unify the country while celebrating its diversity. I told you of Shankaracharya the other day. I told you of Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya was born in the southernmost country, southernmost state of the India. Could you draw the map of India? India ka map. आप ड्राई कर लेंगी मंजू जी इंडिया का मैप रफ?
I can try.
हाँ, you can do it. I'll tell you. Now he came from the southernmost state of India, that is Kerala. But he died in the northernmost corner of India, that is Himalayas. And he created 4 important monasteries in 4 corners of India. and propagated that every Hindu before he dies should visit these 4 corners of the country. So here you can see a deliberate scheme that people should visit the entire country and realize this is their country. He was born in this state,
Kerala, no?
Kerala. Kerala is a state. And he died here. But further up.
Kahan? Jammu?
Badrinath.
Badrinath.
Now, this is southernmost, this is northernmost state. And he died here. And he created 4 ashrams, one here, one here, one here, and one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, idea of India, in spite of the diversity, the creation of the idea was the work of its leaders, scholars, rishis, or sages. So India has been celebrating diversity. And seeking unity in diversity. Another thing, the university was not imposed upon. I have written here, one method was of Shastrarth, the academic arguments, public academic arguments. If there are differences of opinion, they will resolve in the public arguments. People will collect, they will sit publicly and they will argue out differences. Gautam Buddha, Jainism was founded by Mahavir. They did not agree with Vedic tradition. They were in a way rebels. They carved out a new path. But it was welcomed by the main branch. And he was co-opted as a Vedic, co-opted to the Vedic religion as one of the gods. So here is a man who rebels. The other day we said, Jesus Christ rebelled against the Jewish religion. And he was crucified. This didn't happen to Gautam Buddha. Normally he should also have been crucified. But it didn't happen. So this is something very special about the Indian culture, which was given by the sages. The presence of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, Sikhism, Buddhism, Jainism have contributed to the beauty of the Indian mosaic of religions. So pluralism is there, all right? It is to be celebrated. Quest for knowledge. You see, for 5,000 years, what those scholars were doing, their assemblies, they were trying to arrive at the truth, both material truth and the spiritual truth. The Vedas, the philosophical decisions, they discovered yoga, they discovered Ayurveda, they discovered a book on theatre, they call it Bharatnaट्य Shastra. This book on theatre is known as Bharatnaट्य Shastra. You all know they also discussed and discovered sexuality, or a book on sexual art. They call it Kam Shastra. So all branches of knowledge were thoroughly discovered, discussed, researched during that period. And the tradition continued, has continued. So quest for knowledge, and what they did, what is the method? In Vedic times, they used to have teachers, the sages, and they used to run gurukuls. Gurukuls means sort of ashram in which there was a rishi. His wife was there also to take care of the students. And children, boys and girls, they joined him. And nothing was charged from the students. They were given free education. At the end of the education, the teacher could give anything to the guru. It was known as Guru Dakshina. But they were supported by rich people. So gurukuls were there. Then in Buddhist period, for higher learning, they had the universities, in addition to the gurukuls. And the gurukuls were probably in all villages, most of the villages. As I told you, the villages had this self-contained economy. The other day I told you, isn't it? They did not take out anything from outside. But it is only... And this somehow it had inspired very many people. Baba, for instance, he was not a sadhu. He did not wear ochre clothes. And he was... You see, it is very interesting. Before I tell you the background, you see, Muslim invasion, Muslims came to the country in 1192, BC, 1192, I have told you. And they were there till 1857. After 1857, the Britishers came. And British rule was a blessing in some ways. I explained to you last time, why was it a blessing? You see, the English people subtly exploited the country economically. But at intellectual level, at religious level, they helped in the revival of the ancient traditions. They had come at a time when England had seen Renaissance and Reformation. In England, in Western world, Reformation, they were discovering the wisdom of the Greeks. They were rediscovering Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. And with that background, they had come to India. And they tried to discover the ancient wisdom of the country. And it is they who discovered our ancient past, which had been completely lost during the Muslim period. You see, I talked of the Ashokan Rock Edict. Now, Ashokan Rock Edict is written in a script which is more than 2,000 years old. Nobody could know, no Indian knew how to decipher it. But they discovered it. How did they discover? They discovered a Ashokan Rock Edict in Afghanistan, which was bilingual. Half of it was in two languages. One was in Greek, the other was in ancient Brahmi Indian script. Now, with the help of the Greek script, they deciphered and it was done by Englishmen. They discovered. And they imparted the English education. It stimulated many Indians. And they also started rediscovering their religion and culture. Because British did not interfere in our culture and religious life. The reason why did they not interfere in the cultural life was the mutiny of 1857. Before 1857, the clergy that went along with the British officers, they tried to convert people. That created reaction. And a revolt of 1857. It was so strong that British found that if they interfered in the religion of the Muslims and Hindus, they will not be able to survive here any longer. So in 1858, Queen Victoria declared that we will not interfere in the religious affairs of the Indians. And so with that assurance, the Hindus tried to rediscover their heritage. Now the Hindus reacted in two ways. The one way was that one group of scholars went straight back to Vedas and said whatever was written in Vedas is true, all the rest should be rejected. And this group, they call it Arya Samaj. This group said that in Vedas, there was no idol worship. There was no idol worship in Veda. No doubt, there was no idol worship. They would not create an idol and worship it. But later on, so they said we should reject the idol worship that has come about in post-Vedic period. The other school reinterpreted the ancient wisdom in the modern idiom, which appealed to the modern educated people. So you see two approaches. One was orthodox approach, the other was little liberal and modern approach, and both these succeeded. And my grandfather, his father was born in the Muslim era, before 1857. Baba was born a little after 1857. So he had to learn, when he studied, he had learned Persian and Arabic as the first language. But for him to leave the Persian and Arabic background and scholarship and to come to a Sanskrit and the revive, it was a great step. And it was only after Vivekananda it happened, along that time. It was a great step. And secondly, so what he did, he was not a sadhu, but then he was aware of the tradition. He took a decision one day and he met people, and so he became a grihastha sadhu. I've said 4 ashrams: householder sadhu, householder sadhu, where he put on white clothes, did his job. In the morning or evening, he would collect people, study, swadhyaya. In the morning, he will show them. If some students are needy, he will come and live with him, revive the Ayurveda, revive the spiritual heritage, call people. So many people, so Britishers did some good. Of course, they economically ruined the country, that's a different matter. But intellectual level, they precipitated a movement for the revival of the country. For this reason, 19th century India is called the period of Renaissance. 19th century India is called the period of Renaissance. 7:45. All right, are we finished? Let me complete this. So I was saying, because in the Vedic period, because great emphasis was laid on education through Gurukul education, and the universities were set up, and the Takshila University was set up in 6th century before Christ, in which the great scholars had studied. And it is for this reason, because the importance that is given to the acquisition of the knowledge, that in Indian culture and Indian tradition, nobody was punished, no scholar or scientist was ever punished for discovering a truth. You know, have you heard of Bruno? You have not heard of Bruno. Have you heard of the controversy of geocentric universe and heliocentric universe? Please tell them what is.
I've heard of it. My ability to explain it is a little different. The idea that a heliocentric universe is that the sun is in the middle, is that right?
Is in the center of the universe.
In the center of the universe.
Heliocentric,
yes.
yes.
And so everything revolves around versus the celestial bodies like the planets, functioning in different ways in different spaces in the universe. Is that right?
Yes, that's a heliocentric.
Yeah.
And this is geocentric.
Mm-hmm.
The helios means sun. Heliocentric, where the sun is centered. The theory is center is in the sun. Sun is in the center of the universe, and the earth moves around it. Geocentric is earth is in the center, and it is the sun goes around it. And you see sunrise and sunset, you feel that sun is going around you. Isn't it geocentric? For the first time when discovered the telescope, Bruno said that it is the sun which is centered to the universe, and earth moves around it. It was not acceptable to church, because church believed that it is geocentric. Earth is in the center. So Bruno was burnt on the stake. You should see the Bruno, for you look for in the Google. Don't go by my words. Bruno was from 1588 to 1600 CE Christian era. Bruno. His name was Giordano Bruno. He was an Italian. And Galileo, you have heard? Galileo must have heard. Have you heard Galileo? Somebody has heard about Galileo? Who has heard? You have heard? You have heard? Huh? Galileo Galilei. You have heard. He also said the same thing. So he was put in jail, and till his death, he was confined to his house. He was imprisoned in his own house till his death. He was not allowed to come out. So, but in India it never happened. In India, now in so many, you could do anything. There were many schools who would condemn yoga, Vedas. There were many schools who would condemn the theory of transmigration of soul and rebirth. There was one Charvak. He would say that he was a hedonist. He would preach before the most celebrated halls of knowledge. He would say, Rilam Kritva Gritam Pivet. You take loan and drink ghee. Bhasmi Bhutasya Devasya. So long you live for pleasure and enjoyment. There is the body which becomes ashes. There is no life after death. So he would preach. There were many such schools, but he was tolerated. He was allowed. So there were many schools. I have not mentioned. His name was Charvak. There were about more than a dozen, or even more than schools who condemned Vedas, who propounded differently, but they have not lasted. But they were not punished. They were allowed to flourish. Even Ashoka, King Ashoka, who became Buddhist, did not let his empire converted into a theocratic state. in his edicts, he says you should worship, you should respect all religions. Although he became converted to Buddhism. So this was the gift of the culture, tradition going on for thousands of years. You know Wycliffe, I have mentioned here Wycliffe. You know Wycliffe? You know about Wycliffe? He was the first person to translate Bible from Latin to English. And he was also burnt alive. He was there from 322 to 384. 1322, 1384. The first translation from Latin to English.
Who burned him?
The church.
Yeah.
At the time, before, the church before, you see, you have to distinguish. Church after Renaissance Reformation, after Martin Luther and Reformation, and church before. So the church before. After church is as liberal as, or for instance, in most of the countries, that phase is over. So I was referring to this in the context that in India, nobody was ever punishment for heresy. Heresy, nobody was punished. Shall we give a break for some time? Before we give the break, is it clear? Any questions so far? At the end, you might forget to ask questions. There may be many questions. When I give you a very glorious and colorful picture of the Indians, what you find India today is quite contrary to that. It's not what India was, what Indian culture was, or what is expected, the rosy picture that I'm painting. India today is at its lowest ebb, having suffered 1,000 years of slavery and economic ruination and exploitation. It will take time for it to regain its lost glory and so be very clear. I'm very clear. I'm not giving you. If you come to India and you say, "Oh, what it is," I told you 5,000 years back in Harappan civilization, there were underground drainage under the street. I told you last time. And today you go to there are streets, open drains on the side of the road. This is what is India of today. So all the town planning, everything vanished in the 13th century with the foreign invasion. Any question?
I have a funny question. I've only been to India one time, but when I was there, I was traveling with my sister, and we would do something like get on a plane to go somewhere, and I remember the person helping us get on the plane said, "Well, where are your husbands?" You know, we said, "Well, we don't have any husbands, you know, we're not married," and they were shocked, you know, that we were two women traveling with no husbands. So just in terms of culture, yeah, just that value around.
No, I'll discuss the women later. I have one exclusive chapter or one exclusive aspect of this lecture would be on religion. Women.
Yeah.
We'll discuss.
Okay.
And there are many high points in the Indian history where Indians have really made tremendous progress in various disciplines. For instance, you know, the zero was invented by India. You know it? Everybody knows. The decimal system was invented by India. I told you that the numerals 1 to 9 and 0 concept was invented by India, and these numerals Arabs learned from India, and they called it Hindsa. Last time I wrote it. You wrote last time?
Yes.
The numerals, the Indian numerals, are known by the word Hindsa among Arabs. Right, Hindsa? What does Hindsa means? From India. The Indian numeral, because Arabs borrowed from India, they used to call it Hindsa. Indian numerals 1 to 10, 1 to 100. The Arabs would call the Indian numerals as Hindsa. Hindsa literally means from India. But Indian numerals they would call Hindsa. And Indian numerals, the West, the Europeans learnt about the Indian numerals from Arabs, through Arabs, from Arabs. And therefore they call the Indian numeral as Arabic numeral. You know, you're told it is Arabic numeral, means taken from Arabia. But in effect, they are essentially from India. I've mentioned that in Vedas it is mentioned that the world is heliocentric. Sun is in the center of the universe. It is mentioned in Vedas, for which poor Galileo and Bruno had to suffer. It is mentioned in Vedas. And I have also mentioned here, I have mentioned the names of Aryabhat, Brahmagupta, Varamher, etc. here in this note, who had rediscovered, who have mentioned about the geocentric, heliocentric nature of the universe. They have mentioned in their books, in their writings. They also knew that Earth is round. I met a gentleman in London who said I belong to Flat Earth Society. He was insistent. I said, he was fundamentalist. So he said, no, we still, whatever science we say, we still believe it. But these scientists, Indian scientists, about 1,000 years back, 2,000 years back had mentioned that Earth is round, is spherical, it moves around the sun in, not circular, not in a circle around the sun, but in an elliptical circle. It moves around. They could also tell many scientific achievements are there to the credit. But the price of the foreign rule that Indians had to pay was when they got defeated in 1192. Thereafter, all researchers, Indian researchers and achievements in academic world came to a halt. We have the religious tolerance. I need not emphasize this. Religious tolerance is hallmark of the Indian culture. Because there was religious tolerance, so there were no religious, intra-religious feuds or riots or massacres. It is not necessary for Hindu to believe in God. I told you last time, isn't it? Why belief in God is not necessary? Because you don't seek protection from the God. You get protection from your own deeds. If you do good deeds, you will be rewarded. So you need not depend on the mercy of the God. So the logical extension of the belief in good deeds or karma is the devaluation of the concept of God. Clear? Because Buddhism lays even more emphasis on good deeds than even Hindus. Therefore, Buddhism as a creed does not believe in God. For them, Buddha becomes God, although they don't believe in God, but in due course, they raised Buddha to the level of God. That's a different matter. It's a different matter. People can't live without a God or image of a God or concept of God. That's a psychological need. So they raised Buddha to the level of the God. Is that right? But theoretically, they don't believe in God. Somebody asked Gautam Buddha, is there a God? He did not reply. He evaded the reply. He said, why do you bother? If you do good deeds, you will be rewarded, you will get next birth and good births, and ultimately you will get the liberation. But you do bad deeds, God cannot help you. So he evaded the reply. He did not say whether God is there or not. God is there. Jainism also does not believe in God. Many Hindu philosophical schools don't believe in God. But they all emphasize on good deeds. So if you believe in good deeds, you will have a better society. You will be loving with each other. You will be not fighting with each other. You will not be cheating people. You will not be indulging in stealing. You will not be violent. You will not be aggressive. You will not kill people if you believe in good God. So God is, this was there. I'm only reporting. I believe in God is a different matter, or not believe in God is a different matter. I'm only telling you, I'm reporting to you. So religious tolerance is one of the main features of the Indian culture. Now, these are the cultural values. So, but there's on the basis of the cultural values that are developed in the sub-Sindhu area, they try to order the society. How the society, what should be the social behavior? So I've given it in the chapter social ordering. So it started social, page 8. Now, they divided the life in 4 ashrams. The sages divided the life in 4 ashrams. They are Brahmacharya ashram, Grahastha ashram, Vanprastha ashram, and Sannyas ashram. This was the conscious effort to regulate the social conduct of the people. So in this chapter, ordering this social ordering, I'm trying to explain to you how the sages or these thinkers try to regulate the society deliberately. Earlier, I was telling you how the cultural values have affected the behavior of the Indian people. Here, automatically, unknowingly, unconsciously, how it has regulated their conduct. In this chapter, where I say social ordering, how an attempt was made to deliberately order in a particular fashion of fashion society. So they said the life can be divided into 4 stages. First stage is up to the age of 25. Second stage is up to the age of 50. Third stage is up to 75. And fourth stage is up to the age of 100 years. The Vedic prayer says, Jivim Sharda Shatam. Oh God, I want to live up to 100 years. But it is not sufficient that The prayer doesn't end here. He says that for 100 years we should be able to see. For 100 years we should be able to hear. For 100 of years we should not be dependent on anybody. Adhinyam, है ना? Adhinyam, आप तो जानते होंगे. Jivim Shradashatam Adhinyam. We should not be dependent on anybody. So the prayer is not merely for living 100 years, but for living up to 100 years with good health, with honorable and respectable health, or respectable. You should not be dependent on anybody, on the mercy of anybody. So one should live up to 100 years honorably. This is the prayer.
That's a great prayer.
Yes, she would give you the prayer.
I would love to get the prayer.
You give the prayer, Jivim Shardashatam. I was happy to give them the prayer. So, 4 stages. And the Brahmacharya ashram is the period of education, where people are expected to be celibate and exclusively with single-minded devotion attend to studies, acquiring skills, be competent to survive in this world. Second is the Grihastha ashram, the stage of the householder, where after completion of studies, one enters the world and he marries, earns money, supports family, helps the poor, needy, and fulfills all the obligations due to the family and the society. And at 50, this age is called Vanprastha ashram. Literally it means on way to forest. I have not mentioned it, you might write. Literally it means on way to forest. It is at page 9 at the top.
Page 8 it says that.
What's that? In this it is page 9. Page Vanprastha ashram.
On page 8 it says on the way to the forest.
In Vanprastha ashram he gradually passes on his responsibility. Anyway, so Vanprastha means on way to forest. Means you are gradually detaching yourself. He gradually passes on his responsibilities as a householder to his children, pays more attention to serving society. And 75 is the sannyas ashram. A man completely renounces the world and dedicates himself to the welfare and service of mankind. Sometimes I have always been thinking, but this is my own thinking, what is the difference between spiritualism? What is spiritualism? You see, we do everything for ourselves, isn't it? For our welfare, for our relationship. Somewhere we do it for ourselves. But where you transcend the border of self, you go beyond yourself. When you do for others, that is spiritualism. When you are not doing for your body, for your personal physical body or family body, where you trespass that boundary, transcend that limit of self. So what would be spiritual? What would constitute spiritualism? Altruism, charity, helping people, in which you don't directly benefit. If you give some poor money to some poor person in the hope that one day he will serve you, then it is not spiritualism. So in sannyas ashram, one renounces the world and follows spiritualism. Spiritualism means not self-service, but service to the society, service to others. All right? So these are the 4 stages of life, which everybody is. No, it was not merely in theory. There are very many examples of. Grandfather of King Ashoka, I was telling you, was a great king who had defeated the Greek general Seleucus Nicator, I told you. He, in his old age, he abdicated his throne and became a Jain monk, went to South India in Mysore, South India, and died there as a monk. So this, it was not merely in theory. Most people try to practice it. And even those who do not practice it, somewhere are psychologically follow it or try to honor it. For instance, I'm past 75. So I think now I should not think of myself alone. Even though I'm not a sannyasi, but somewhere my mindset is there. Somewhere I have this thinking that, look now, enough is enough. I should give away things now, but what should I keep it? I should help people. You see, automatically, everybody, it is. Now, if at the age of 75, if I try to grab things, I'll be small in my own eyes. Although there are people, there are individuals in India I've seen, their greed increases with age. Even at the 75, they are greedy. But then, I'm sure they would not be thinking good of themselves because of the psychology, because of the background they have inherited from the culture. Because people around him would be looking down upon him. All right? Now we have purusharthas, the goals of life, again ordered by the society. Goals of life. There are 4. Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. These are very important. You must have been taught about Dharma, Arth, Kam, Moksha. In Ayurveda, they might have talked about Dharma. Dharma is a very wide concept. For everything you have the word Dharma. Dharma is a typical Indian concept which cannot be translated in any other language. Dharma is generally and loosely taken to mean religion. Yes, so in one sense, Dharma is religion. But Dharma has many connotations, has many shades of meanings. Dharma is duty also. Dharma is law. I have mentioned here, Dharma is ethical conduct. Dharma is charity, law, not harming others. Innate duty of things. For instance, fire burns. So what is the fire burns? So what is the dharma of fire? It is to burn. You see, so dharma in different contexts it is used. But basically it means ethical context. It means positivism. Positivism. Anything that is positive is dharma. Anything negative is adharma. And dharma permeates every other concept. If you have inclusivism, it is because of dharma. It is because if you have humanism, it is the great trait of dharma. It is dharmic, humanism is dharma. So it permeates all, most of the concepts that Hinduism have, the Indian culture has evolved. Charity, law. Now, what is dharma then? People have, different scholars have tried to define. Manu has given this 10 concepts. Isn't it? This is mentioned here. You can see 10 and page 9. Is it at page 9 or 8?
9.
Patience, forgiveness, dhrit, kshama, damo, vaste, shauch, indriya, nigrah, dhir, vidya, satyam, krodham. What are the attributes of dharma? According to Manu, it is patience, forgiveness, mental steadfastness or mental strength, non-stealing, cleanliness, restraining senses, wisdom, knowledge, truth, and non-anger. So there is nothing religious about it. Do you find anything religious about it? Nothing. It doesn't say you worship Ram or Krishna or Lakshmi or Saraswati. It is not religious. But it is dharma. So dharma is non-religious. Dharma is treated as synonym of religion, but the concept of dharma is non-religious. Similarly, when I was listening to the Gayatri mantra, what is religious about it? There is nothing religious. What you are saying is that our mind may be enlightened. Means you are at the center of action. You are responsible for the deeds. Because you don't tell God, oh God, direct me to do this or that, or God doesn't take your responsibility. You tell God that my intellect may be enlightened so that I may take right decisions, so that I may do good karma. Again, Gayatri Mantra doesn't have anything religious about it. And it's called the greatest mantra. So, dharma can be non-religious, is a concept, is a positive concept. Non-religious in the sense it doesn't deal with the God or form of worship. Therefore, I have written, dharma is a core value of the Indian culture. It is so important that it can be described as synonym of culture in the Indian tradition. To be cultured is to be dharmic. All that is positive is dharmic, and all that is negative is non-dharmic. Dharma is itself a cultural value, but it pervades and permeates into all other cultural values. Good? Clear? Now, dharma has been defined variously. I gave you the one definition, then which uplifts materially and spiritually is dharma. The power that brings individuals together and sustains them as a society is called dharma. Food, sleep, fear, lust are common to both animal and man. The special attribute of man is dharma. A person devoid of dharma is like an animal. There is no higher dharma than truth. Now, it doesn't deal with religion. All these values, they are autonomous of religion. Not non-religious, but independent of religion. There is no higher dharma than truth. Good conduct is the basis of dharma. There is no dharma other than doing good to others. There is nothing more sinful, non-dharmic than inflicting pain on others. Speak the truth. Speak the truth and speak the likable truth. Do not speak unlikable truth. Do not speak the likable lie. The art of speaking truth by making it likable is the eternal dharma. Ashok King, in his Rok Edict, I told you, who became Buddhist, he says, and dharma consists of proper behavior towards servants and employees. It talks of social conduct. It doesn't talk of the religious conduct. It talks of the social conduct. Consists of proper behavior towards servants and employees, respect for mother and father, generosity to friends, companions, relations, brahmans and shamans, means all shades of religious holy men, and not killing living beings. So all the attributes of dharma given by different scholars are not religious attributes. Clear? It is independent of the religious attributes and concerns with the positivity of life. Clear? Dharma is a very interesting concept. It is all pervasive. and we are all dharmic. When I teach you well, I have done a dharmic act. If I don't teach you well, I have done a adharmic act. So it is a measure of my teaching as well. Earth means wealth and finance. All right? Earth means wealth and finance. So one of the goals is dharma. The other goal is earth. It is not life denying culture. You live life to full. Calm is desire, including sexual desires. It's part of the life's goal. And moksha is the liberation or spiritual detachment from worldly objects and desire. Sannyas, where you detach yourself completely from the world. All right? So, what are the goals of life? It is not... Buddhism says life is full of misery. Buddhism preaches 4 noble truths. The first noble truth is जीवन दुख में है. The life is miserable. दुख का कारण है, दुख का निवारण है, फिर अष्टांग मार्ग क्या है. The first noble truth that Gautam Buddha propounded, life is full of misery. But Indian culture, the basic values of Indian culture, don't deny life. They celebrate life. They want everybody to fulfill the life's goals and fully. There are the cases where people don't follow all stages of life. They become sannyasi at a very young age, isn't it? So these are the exceptional cases. There was one great saint, or how you will call him, Vivekananda was a sannyasi, a saint. And Ramteech was a saint. He had come to America also. He was in California for a very long time. And he had many disciples here, about more than 100 years back. So he said that for yajna, for the fire ceremony, you need the wood to be dry. Wood to be dry. And if they are wet or damp, wood will not catch fire. Is that, is that a correct expression? For fire, if you want to ignite a wood, it should be dry. It should not be damp. All right? So this is for yajna, the firewood that you require should be dry. But for a person to dry for the yajna, it takes normally 75 years. But if somebody dies earlier, so he can take to sannyas early. Is that clear? So, and this, our Shankaracharya I was talking about, he became sannyasi at the age of 16. He did not wait up to 75. You could be a sannyasi at any age. You can transcend those years. So it does not deny. And then important thing is the order in which these 4 goals of life have been mentioned. I have 10 minutes more. Huh? No, 23 minutes more. So I'll finish by 9. So order is very important. You see, the first purusharth is dharma, because it's most important that it has been mentioned at the very beginning. But earth and calm, the money and the desires have been put between dharma and the moksha. So you pursue pursue the wealth and money, and seek the fulfillment of your desires as much as you like, but it should be limited by dharma and moksha. All right, clear? These are the limits drawn to your fulfillment of your ambitions. And there is a very interesting shlok from Vedas. It says, whatever is there in the world belongs to God. A man should use it in the spirit of renunciation and not be greedy. So you enjoy it, but within the spirit of renunciation. You should not go whole hog. You should not destroy yourself. Be within the limits of dharma. Then there is a very interesting concept of cosmic debts. They call it, in Sanskrit, they call it rin. You see, again ordered by the society. You see, there are 6 kinds of debts. Your debt to mother, debt to father, debt to guru, debt to nature, debt to rishis, and debt to gods. Now, what is this concept of debt? You see, you are born, you are taken care of by your parents. You are really taken care of parents. So, or put it differently, a man, a father, gives a big car to his son. So, how would the son repay his debt? By paying the money to his father? No. Or taking care of his father? No. This concept is by giving equally good car to his son. The son gives that car to his son. You understand? So it is handed down. It is to next generation. Is that clear?
Is it for sons and daughters? Because here it talks
Son and daughters. Son and daughters. I have given the example son and daughters to anybody. I'll come to that later on. That woman part. So similarly, guru. Whatever I am speaking, how do I get? Who had evolved these concepts? The rishis, sages, ancient gurus. So whatever I am speaking, I am indebted to gurus. But how would I pay back their, by teaching you? By adding to that knowledge. So this cosmic debt is a unique concept. It keeps the continuity alive. It doesn't come to an end. Now, bhutas, panch bhuta, you see the nature. In Ayurveda you say, you have read of the panch bhutas, Agni, 5 bhutas. Now, how do you use them? But then, you should not use it beyond a point. You should pay back also. You should care for your environment, to your nature. You should not pollute the rivers. And to the Dev, how would Dev do? By leading a life of renunciation, by doing selfless service, spiritualistic service. All right? Concept is clear? It's a very interesting concept which is unique to Indian culture. Now, position of women. I am writing, in ancient India, women had a special place of honor. They went to gurukuls like boys for education. They were also called Brahmavadini. Many of the authors of the Vedas were female sages, such as Romisha, Lobmudra, Vishwavara, Shashwati, Gargi, Maitre, Apla, Ghosha, Aditi, Surya, Indrani, Yami, Shraddha, many more. The Vedic seers were women, many of them. And in Gurukul, the Guru was there, and his wife was known as Guru Mata, the Guru Mother. She had also a role to play. And the Gurukul was run by the husband and It's really run by both. And there were some gurukuls in which women went, Brahmabadinis, or the girls went and studied. In Rig Veda, I've quoted the mantra 142.6. A woman has been called Devi. So Shuna calls you all Devi. Rig Veda, the woman has been called Devi, goddess. The Devata should not feel annoyed. the only lone man here. I hope you don't mind it. In Atharved, the groom tells his bride at the marriage ceremony, you may become empress of your father-in-law, empress of your father-in-law, empress of your mother-in-law, empress of your sister-in-law, and empress of the house by God's grace. So you become empress, not queen. The Atharveds knew the distinction between the queen and the empress. They used the word queen, empress, not queen. Is that interesting? They used the word empress. Manu says he was a lawgiver, the place where women are honored is visited by gods. ये तो Manjuji, it's a very oft quoted Yatra Nadastu Pujanta Ramante Tatra Devta. Everybody quotes this. This is very well known. Where women are. And next line is where women are dishonored are cursed by gods. The second line is. In post-Vedic, three goddesses emerged: Lakshmi, Saraswati, and Durga. This I have already told you. Durga is the goddess of Valor. She is worshipped in Baba's lineage. We call it Jai Ma, means Durga. Jai Mother. Or we could say Jai Amma. Kiran, Jai Amma. We could say Ma or Jai Amma. It's the same thing. In India, we call Amma for mother, Ma or Amma. And surprisingly, in Korea also, they call their mother as Amma. Same word. Exactly the same. But the position of women was degraded during the Muslim rule. I have explained to you, they would abdict the women. So Indian families would not let their women come out in the public. They will be covered with chadars, or they will not be allowed. And they will not be sent to schools. They were not sent to the schools. And they were married early. And the widows were treated shabbily. So the position of women was very degraded during the Muslim period. But since the Britishers came, and after the Britishers came, and with the Renaissance, many steps were taken by many Indians to restore their position of dignity. Now you don't see, you have been to India, you don't see parda in cities. You don't see many women with covered faces. And you see many girls' schools. They are married also quite late. Many women are choosing their own husbands. They are free to choose their own husbands. One of our last president of India was a woman. We have three chief ministers of state are women. Many ministers are women. The chief minister of Delhi is a woman. Chief Minister Sheila Dikshit. So you must have met somebody from the village who was surprised to see a woman going around without an escort and remaining unmarried for up to this age. So, but society is changing. And change is possible. Change is possible because religion or tradition is not against this change. It's supportive of this change. Had there been some religious objection, had there been some religious injunction that women should always remain in parda or covered, it would have been difficult. Change would not have come. Because there is the tradition of women learning and being the seers of the Vedas, it is very easy to tell people you should come out of the house and educate your girls. So things are changing and the cultural traditions is supportive of the change. Does it answer your question? Mm-hmm. Negative aspects. I've tried to mention, and Swara was here the other day, she was asking, casteism. Casteism is one negative aspect of the Indian culture. You see, while ordering the society, theoretically, the Vedic seers divided society in 4 classes. One is scholar class, the second warrior class, third business class, and fourth artisan service class. It was theoretical division. And a person, a scholar, was known by that varna, as they call it. And in ancient time, very, very ancient times, it was possible that the son of a scholar could become a warrior, could become a businessman. And then his name would change. From a scholar, then he will be known as a businessman. There are 4 classes: scholar, warrior, businessman, and artisan class. And in ancient times, professions used to be hereditary. Everywhere, in Europe also, everywhere they used to be hereditary. You find Mr. Smith, maybe his father, grandfather, they were all Smiths. So Mr. Smith became his family name. So the Brahman became the scholars became scholars. And if they change the profession, then the name should change. And in ancient times, the name did change. A Brahman became, a scholar became a businessman. His name changed in ancient times. But after some time, the class division became rigid. And the son of the scholar would be called a scholar, irrespective of the profession he may take. He continued to be a scholar. All right, continued to retain the name of a scholar. It would not change with the change of his profession. And then, after some time, they crystallized into castes. From four classes, they got divided into hundreds of castes, depending on the profession and things. And during the Muslim period, when the Hindu leadership wiped out, the distinction became even more stronger. And with the result that the people of one caste, every person is born in a caste. Isn't it? Everybody is born in a caste. I'm born in a caste, she's born in a caste, every Indian, she's born in a caste, everybody is born in a caste. Because what caste? The caste of the parents. My parents belong to the scholar class, I will be called the scholar class. I may be doing the shoe polish later on, but still I'll be from this scholar caste. See, how funny it is. And so caste became crystallized. And after some time, the castes will not dine with each other. A Brahman's daughter will not marry a warrior's daughter, warrior caste daughter. They would not intermarry. They will not even interdine. They will not eat with each other. This situation came to such a pass. And now, after some time, after After a while, you see, in 19th century, I talked the Renaissance, there was an attempt to do away with the caste or to lessen the hold of the caste. But with the elections coming in after independence, the caste differences have been accentuated. Elections are fought on the basis of caste. Not so, the grip of the caste system has loosened in the cities, but it continues to have the stranglehold in rural areas. It is a bane which every thinking person doesn't support, but it is there. The other negative factor that I have mentioned is the overemphasis on peace and non-violence. You see, absolute non-violence doesn't lead anywhere. Absolute non-violence means absolute suicide. Isn't it? It will lead to absolute suicide. You see, I have just mentioned one incident that when 1192, the Turkish king Muhammad Ghori invaded the country. I mentioned it is here in the, invaded the country. The Hindu king defeated him in 1191. Then the Turkish king again invaded India. So when in the second year, when the armies were facing each other, the Hindu king was motivated by the Indian culture and its desire for peace and harmony and non-violence. He wrote a letter to his adversary saying that you know of our prowess. We have already defeated you once. You have come second time, we will crush you again. But I feel for the life of your soldiers. I don't want to kill them. And therefore I advise you to return back to your country and don't fight. The Turkish king replied, this I am saying on the basis of historical documents. The Turkish king replied that I am the representative of my brother. He has sent me here. I am conveying your message to my brother. And after I have received the reply from him, I'll return back. Till such time, I want peace or truce. And the Hindu king granted peace. And the Muslim historian writes that that night, the Hindu soldiers passed their night in riot and revelry. They were happy that war has been postponed or given up. And Muslim historian writes that after riot and revelry, when they were tired and sleeping in the early hours, Turkish king invaded, attacked, and killed most of the Hindu soldiers. And within few years, India passed into slavery. So here is a good virtue which can give you adverse results. So this is, how should I say, this is also a gift of the Indian geography to the Indian psyche, where you are unable to defend when you are attacked, because you have always been facing, Indians have always been facing foreign invasions through outmoded weapons. When China invaded India in 1962, as recent as 1962, they had the automatic weapons, and Indians had 303 non-automatic rifles. So we have been fighting with outmoded weapons, not prepared. So this is the Indian culture, good aspects, bad aspects. And today, India is at its lowest ebb. Indians are not the best people. They have a very good ideology and culture, gift from nature, and gifted from sages. Thank you very much. But I would be very happy if you ask some questions. Although just 2 minutes more. Ask any question on any subject. Yes, Deepthi.
Sometimes in my experience or what I see, like current time when I go to India, is like sometimes people say in regards to women, like, okay, in a land of where the deity, like the goddesses worship, then I hear you recount like the history and influence of how women are treated, but like how present time, there's like often, it's like where women aren't, it's like the goddesses worship, but then women are disrespected, right? It's kind of a common happening. But I just wonder if there's like some perspective that like, I'm wondering what your perspective is around that, like, because there's rising movements of feminism, of like raising awareness or work in, you know, in houses of remembering, like they say sometimes, like, you know, in your house is there no mother or sister, sometimes like the things that happen on the street. But like, I guess I'm wondering what is, if there was like a purpose for different cycles of, let's say, like ignorance, maybe in like Kali Yuga, or you know, in social manifestation of like ignorance or oppression.
You have a very long question.
Okay, sorry,
Please
long
put it.
question.
Just
What
put
do you
question.
think is, I guess, what do you feel like is happening with the gap?
No, it's changing. It will take
Yeah.
time. You see, for 1,000 years, women were put behind the doors.
Sure.
They were not educated. They were burnt alive. Have you heard of this? Some of the women were burnt alive in sati system, because widows were burnt alive, because they would not take the risk of a widow being abducted by some foreigners. They would rather burn her than allow her to be abducted by the foreigners or Muslims. So from that position, things have changed. And it will take time. So you have all sorts of women. You have the women president, you have the women president of the party, you have the women chief ministers, women are electioning everywhere. Then this feminism, of course it would be there. When you come out of the house, all sorts of the people will go in different directions. But it is to be welcomed. It's a good feature. It augurs well for the future. Any other question? 1 more minute. No questions. It means you are all satisfied. Satisfied? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaskar. And I'll try to revise this paper if necessary. And I must thank Ripa. She helped me in typing out and doing it. So thank her also.
Tataji actually hand wrote all of these notes, like in all the tutorials that we
You see, I don't type out on computer. I'm from that generation. When I saw the computer for the first time at the age of 60. And my grandson was playing with the computer from the age of 5 or 6. So naturally, I'm not comfortable with computer. And I started, of course I can do it.
You compiled all this from so many sources and really worked.
No, the trouble was here, I don't have the books here, as many books as I would have liked to. That was the difficulty, but then I did compile things. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let's do us one.